I had a band, the Blue Notes. It was the house band here, and together with Sam Papa, and John Lewis and Rory. We had a lot of fun. We played for about 20 years. And one of the tunes we would do was the Talking Heads version of the Al Green tune, Take Me to the River. It goes like this. I'm here to talk about paying dues and going through a long learning curve. How many people would like to start 10 years ago to actively become an oncologist? Impossible. But being a writer is very similar. I've often thought what I will say when I'm speaking to a classroom of beginning writers. Every time I learn something new about the writing business, I think this. I think the most important thing I need to get across to them is to let your characters do what their natural inclinations compel them to do, and to not write your personal likes, dislikes, hopes, and dreams into your characters. The reading group here read one of my first exploratory novels, Jan, thank you, and it suffered for that reason, because I'm cloning Tim McGregor here, then I'm cloning him. There's no autonomy. The characters don't get to do what they want to do. So, my transition from reader to writer, how I did it and how you can do it too. First of all, if you don't feel compelled to do it, don't do it. It's a lot of work, it's heartbreaking, it's grueling, but if you were born to do it and you wanted to do it since you were a child, then I'd say go for it. My childhood hero, Ray Bradbury, spoke at my high school and said, "If you want to write, then write. Start today and never stop." I felt I wasn't qualified as a young, inexperienced 13-year-old punk kid. Exactly what Bradbury was trying to tell me not to think and feel. I planned my life to gain experience and perspective as a project where I would be a journalist and then transition to writing as Hemingway did. I then changed that plan in undergrad thinking so that in order to get a broad view of the world, I needed to avoid the cloistered, hermetic profession of journalism. Another laughable misunderstanding. I decided to do my undergrad degree in economics so I could get a job or jobs in business and travel the world gathering material as an embedded anthropologist. My plan was to conduct this study of life and then retire to a studio at age 30 and the words would flow from my typewriter. The reality turned out to be quite different. It became the adventure of my life when I finally hung out my professional writer's shingle on October 4th, 2014, 9 years ago at age 61, 31 years later than my original plan. My plan now is to write 3 adventure novels using my current base of 12 characters introduced in my debut novel, The Chronicles of the Extraordinary Threat Abatement Special Operations Group, and then take it from there. In summary, I believe the novel writing process will aid you and give you an adventure-filled life wherever you are in your life. If you can't be happy without creating narrative, start today and never stop. If you can be happy without spending your life pushing on your keyboard, then by all means, walk away. My reading history. Sister Mary Thomas, in first grade in Houma, California, discovered that I was dyslexic and helped me out to learn how to read paragraphs rather than individual words. She was a godsend. In third grade at Newport Harbor Elementary, where we moved, halfway through my third grade year, they tested me, and I tested in the seventh grade, and my parents didn't want me to move ahead because then I'd always be the punk kid in every class after that. So what I did was I read books all school year. I put my desk next to the window and just read by myself. Because when they were discussing this, I said, listen, I've been at the junior high school library, the high school library, the public library, and I've got a long, long reading list. So if you let me sit and read books, I'd love that. And they did, and I did. In the summer after third grade, I discovered the Boys Club, and they had a big bound edition of the complete works of Mark Twain, which is where I read The Innocents Abroad for the first time. And my brother would go play sports and come back and nag me to come, because you need one person on each side to join the new game, and so I'd have to really fight for my reading time. But that was a delight. Friends of the library next door, I had a book sale, and I go there, and all these tables set out in the sun, and there are books for 2 cents, 1 cent, 5 cents, 25 cents. Hog heaven for the Timster. I'm thinking, oh boy. And so I had 35 cents lunch money. You know where that went. I went and borrowed my brother's lunch money from him and went back. And I had stacks of books that I had selected. My way of selecting a book was if I read the first page and I could understand what the author was saying, then I would buy the book. I got a few turkeys, but mostly it was really good stuff. In fourth grade, I read all the books in our class, and I got permission to go to the 5th grade class and then the 6th grade class and read all of their books, and then make lists, reading lists, and give them to all the teachers of what I wanted when the bookmobile came. And they said, this is too much trouble, and when I interface directly with the bookmobile, so I did. And I'd take the card and push it out there to the bookmobile and the basketball court and tell her what I wanted, and she'd say, you know, Tim, if you find an author you like, read the other works by that author. I thought, wow, novel idea. No pun intended. And so reading's been an adventure for me. Then at age 39, I met the girl of my dreams, and had nothing further to prove to anybody else. I was home, and I got on with weedy mild destiny. That's you. I got rejected in a turkey novel that I had written by agents. They have a program where you can hit a lot of agents and monitor your status with them, and they rejected me. So I thought, well, this novel certainly some agent will pick me up immediately, but it wasn't going to happen. So I started the Indian venture, independent publisher. I formed my own publishing and print, Iceland Studios Press, and got into the many jobs entailed in establishing myself as an indie author. Okay, I was so thrilled in January when we finished Chronicles. I say we because it was constantly helping me. And so we proofed the manuscript one time, and then we published on Amazon. And dear friends came to me and said, Tim, there are a lot of typos, and I was crushed. But, you know, what we can do. So I got the AI program, Grammarly, and went through and found like 743 questionable typos and punctuation and misspellings. And then I did that. It took me a couple of days. And then Aiko did a close read, and I did a close read. We compared our notes. And then I pulled it from Amazon and then republished it. which is easy to do. A friend told me way back in the day that I was reproducing myself over and over in my characters, and it intimidated him and was not pleasant to read. This was exactly what I was waiting to hear, and I didn't know it. And I went to work right away to cut my characters loose and let them act according to their own wills and desires. This debut novel is a little rough for non-readers because it probably only rises to the level of a TV drama in my 3 racy scenes. And that is what people not used to consuming narrative from text seem to have taken away. That's okay. I'm only one guy. Everybody who wants to read finds their favorite readers. Now I'd like to do a reading from the novel. One of our intrepid heroes, Rodney Porter, a detective with the Miami Police Department, has been kidnapped by the human traffickers he was pursuing and left to die in an ocean-going container on its way across the ocean on a voyage that will leave the captive detective dehydrated and dead in a matter of days. As he sat in the container, Rodney considered the case of Pitt, the cabin boy in Melville's Moby Dick. Pitt was effing around in one of the whaling boats that had left the ship to pursue a whale. The boss of the whaling boat, Stubb, told Pitt to quit effing around, but Pitt ignored him and jumped around again and fell out of the longboat. Stubb cut the whale free and rescued Pitt. Stubb told Pitt to cherish his courageousness to the utmost, for he might often find it useful. Needful. Pitt was careless the second time and fell overboard. Stubb saw what had happened, but didn't go back for Pitt because 2 more whaling boats were coming up on his stern, and he assumed they would recover Pitt. The other 2 boats spied another whale, changed course, went after the second whale, and left Pitt behind without seeing him in the water. Within a few minutes, Pitt was all alone, treading water in what looked to him to be a limitless ocean. In what could have been Nietzsche's abyss that looks into you when you look into it, Pitt looked into the primordial force of the deep ocean, the Black Sea. Pitt was no match for the abyss of the deep ocean that overwhelmed his mind, first with fear, then with terror, and then finally with the dwarfing of all of the human qualities that made Pitt a happy presence on the deck of the Pequod. The ship, not the whaling boats, finally plucked Pitt from the sea. He was alive, but he was not, nor would he ever be, again the joyful Pitt playing the tambourine and dancing around the deck. This Pitt, after his trial by fire, was wan and desolate. He attended to his duties and no more, but had no more joy to share with his shipmates. The author said it was because he had seen the face of God, and that the language of God is insanity to mortal man. So Pitt conversed with God and had most of his thought receptors cauterized. Now I'm going to read from another section. My android character, Paula, is explaining her life goal. The android Paula, who has mistakenly assumed that the human brain was neuroplastic, is explaining her philosophy of life to the Incan god Tess. We will do what we can to make reparations for our grave error, said Paula. On behalf of myself and my android brothers and sisters, I apologize for our fundamental error in the misunderstanding that what we had been doing was not a harmless but misguided human mutilation. Horrible. I accept your sincere apology, Tess responded solemnly. Others will need to hear it later. Tell me about your relationship with Dr. Abatement. He is the first human I have come to know, the person who showed me the joy of human intimacy and who has made me realize my dream of moving vigorously on the path to becoming fully human. With those benefits, I can't imagine anybody else competing with him for my affection. If someone were to try to separate us, my earlier self would have killed them without remorse. However, as I start to understand the nature of the human experience better, I feel such violence would doom me to the death of my heart, Paula said. What do you mean by the death of your heart? Asked Tess. I consider my heart the basic field where this wonderfully pleasing newfound gift of flexible thought occurs, Paula said almost breathlessly. She continued, I think about it like this. Pinocchio said, how ridiculous I was as a marionette, and how happy I am now that I have become a real boy. That is from the book by Carlo Collodi, who wrote the tale 150 years ago about a wooden boy who becomes a real boy. I have essentially duplicated this achievement, and I don't want to fall back into the life of being a sterile android, a marionette. My humanity is a gift, and I want to hold tightly to it by learning to appreciate it, applying it, and never violating the code of life. I remember. Okay, that's all I have to say. Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, then you can catch me after the service. Wonderful to be here. Thank you for loving me. It's nice to be in a place where people love you. You go and all of the tensions of the world are temporarily held at bay for a while. And it's healing, strengthening. I've been doing it for 33 years since Ava and I got married here. Oh yeah, look at this. Love it. Here's what it looks like. Can you imagine getting your own book from the publisher? They send them to you in a box, you have to buy them. A lot of postage, but that was so thrilling the day that first came in. Ava and I danced around the house. Thank you. Thank you.
Tim, don't sit down, because now stand as you're able, singing our closing hymn, number 118. This little light of mine, which Tim just let his light shine. It's found in the